Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we'll be taking a look at this review copy I was sent of A Pound of Flesh, which is a new supplement for the Mothership sci-fi horror role-playing game, which is one of the coolest books that I reviewed in a really long time. I'll put a link to the previous review right up here, where you can see my thoughts on the core system and its first expansion, Dead Planet. Before we start, though, this video is brought to you by the Questing Beast Patreon. Head over to the Patreon link in the description below if you would like to help support the channel and get previews of the upcoming Maze Knights, an RPG that I'm releasing that is an update to Maze Rats. All right, let's get into this review. So this book is a supplement for running space stations. It has a completely built out, very detailed space station ready to use, and a tremendous number of tools at the back for creating your own space stations. Getting right into our cover here. So this was written by Sean McCoy, Don Stroud, and Luke Gearing, and illustrated by Jan Burgay and Sean McCoy, edited by Jarrett Crater. So the built-in space station that this comes with is Prospero's Dream. And really, this whole space station has a Shakespeare's Tempest theme going on with it, which you'll see more and more of as we go along. Probably the biggest standout in this book, along with really the rest of the Mothership books, is the incredible attention to detail when it comes to layout and design. An enormous amount of work went into this, more than I've seen in virtually any other RPG book. And it continually astounds me how good it looks and how functional it is. We have all the 10 main regions of our space station here, labeled 1 through 10, with short little descriptions, the basics, and how to use this module. The themes are all in, all the colors are pink, black, and white, which makes it very striking. There's an almost mecha anime styling going on here, especially with this cover illustration and the way that a lot of the fonts are used. It's hard to put my finger on it exactly, but that's definitely the impression that I get. By and large, the colors work just fine. The main downside that I've seen is whenever you have pink printed on black, and that's not too common, but you do see it throughout this module. Normally it's fine, especially if you're in bright light, but even if you're in slightly dim light, it becomes very difficult to read and causes quite an eye strain. It's a nitpick, really, but I thought worth pointing out. So basically, this is probably one of the most important pages of the book. What exactly is going on here? There's 3 main storylines. I hesitate to call them really storylines. They're a sequence of events that are going to happen on this ship or on this space station if the players don't do anything. So you either have an impending Teamster strike, you have unrest in the choke, which is basically a revolution and uprising of the lower class taking on their oppressors, and you have an outbreak of some horrible organic organism that begins taking over the station. So you can run all 3 of these simultaneously, just choose one of them, whatever. But over time, they're simply going to activate in this order. Though, of course, players may try and stop them and may be able to halt them at different phases of their development. This is a really clean and simple way to develop the station, make sure that it feels like it's alive, and give players lots of things to react to. Very easy to use. So you can run all of these things right from this page. Whenever we come to a particular location, they will often have phase alterations down here, where it says how this location would change in different phases of these story events. So this says outbreak 3. So if you're in phase 3 of the outbreak, then certain things are going to be different here. It makes it very easy to reference. We have all of the main movers and shakers, the main NPCs, each of which has a nice single column, a great detailed illustration, and everything that you would need to run them. Where are they and what are they doing? What can you do for them, right? They can give you missions and give you things to interact with, and quick little expressions, little descriptions of what they're all about. Start getting into the actual descriptions here at Dry Dock. There's lots of great flowcharts here. You don't need a tremendous amount of detail. You just really need to know how these locations are connected together so that you can describe how players move from one to another and what their choices are. This is a zine, so it does try and compact things into as clean and simple and functional a format as possible. And it does a really good job at that. The concern, as within the other Mothership books, is making everything as easy to use as possible. Information is always repeated when it needs to be repeated, just so that everything's easier to run. We have a chop shop, where you can install new cyber mods, with, of course, an enormous number of new cyber mods that you can put in, along with lots of cool malfunctions that can happen, panic tables for when things go wrong, and lots of cyberware right here. We have the Icebox, where you can install slick bays, which are basically where you can enter a slick bay, which is like a virtual reality world. I love how it recommends that you can transport adventures from other genres like D&D right into Mothership by having players go into one of these virtual reality worlds. And suddenly you can play like a D&D session and then go back again. That's pretty cool. We have the farm, where a lot of the food is grown here. So we have the Solarians. So that is a sort of religious cult. What do they believe? Here's how everything works. You have all your locations here. They're all done in these short little paragraphs to give you just enough. The formatting is always, if something is important, it's always in bold and underlined, so you can very quickly grab the important information as you're reading through it. There's a lot of drugs that are, of course, grown on the farm. So we have different types of drugs and their come downs. The Cannon Heavy Market, an intergalactic haven for hackers. We have lots of new missions that you can pick up here. The court. Since this is very much the Wild West, the court is all settled by Mortal Kombat, because of course it is. So if your players want to test out their crazy cyber mods and insane space weapons, this is the place to do it. You, of course, can also bet on the different duels that are currently happening in this horrible arena. And you have built-in ways to generate those matchups. You have the Tempest Mercenary Company and their headquarters, which is a private military corporation. You can join them by doing missions for them. So there's no shortage of things to do on this space station. Dop Town. So we have a place where one of the main currencies on this space station is oxygen. And if you're unable to pay your regular oxygen fee, you get sent to Dop Town, which is the deoxygenated people's town. A really horrible place. So how all of these areas are connected are always carefully laid out and easy to access. The choke is the area of the space station all down here. It's where all the horrible things are. So it's great for emphasizing if you want to go more a survival horror route. We have Dop Town itself there. We have the Sink, which was formerly a major functioning portion of Prospero's Dream, the space station. It's now a sunken city wasteland filled with sewage and strange creatures, massive high-rise superstructures. It's a great image. And of course, you can explore a lot of the weird tunnels and more horrifying things deeper and deeper into the bowels of this space station. We have a life support system you can tinker with. We have a short little dungeon crawl that's done as this, I don't want to call it a flow chart, but it's more like a diagram than an actual dungeon drawing, but it is more than sufficient to get things done. You know where you are, you know what your connections are. If it's a dotted line, then it's flooded to the knees and you can get infected with horrible sewage and so on. The different symbols on each of these circles represent either encounters, extra dangerous encounters, less dangerous encounters, places where you might find equipment. So just with this simple little diagram and this one page, you could easily play one or maybe multiple sessions. Caliban's Heart, the horrible things lurking deep inside the space station itself. As we get near the end, we get a list of basically tools. This is a toolkit. Whether you want to use Prospero's Dream itself, or whether you want to create your own space station, this stuff is going to be indispensable. So we have deadly encounters that you can run into, and just typical station encounters. So your players can just say, I wander around this one section and I look for someone cool. You'll have stuff to give them. Establishments. No shortage of weird places that they can end up. It tells you what kind of thing they are, prices and notes about it, and of course, great specific names for those locations that you can steal. We have denizens of the dream. So 100 or close to 100 unique NPCs with a name, basically who they are, and of course, what do they want. By giving NPCs desires and goals, then they're going to be much more dynamic and players will have something to do with them. We have a general space station toolkit with lots of random tables you can mix and match. And one of my favorite things, it has a Mad Libs. So there's a little paragraph here and you simply fill it in with station name, celestial body it's orbiting, who their core leader is, what their current crisis is, and so on, just by rolling on all of these tables. And you'll have a paragraph describing a unique space station that you can use. A general space station structure here, 10 different shapes that you might find, and a general layout that you can roll on here for the different locations. So here's all the different locations that you can tie them in with, right? So you have all of these little circles here. You can plug and play them with stuff from here. Clinics, factories, greenhouses, brigs, power stations, pharma labs, and so on and so forth. On the very back, we have cybernetic mutations because, you're going to need cybernetic mutations, and random search because players are always going to be killing things and going through their pockets and looking for loose change. So a random search might reveal a crossbow with 2d10 bolts, or a pipe bomb, or a subversive anti-corporate samizdat literature, or a small bottle of poison, and so on and so forth. So this is really, really good. That's not too much of a surprise given what I've seen before from the Mothership crew. This short little zine packs as much punch, or significantly more punch, than a lot of full-sized, hardback supplements that I've seen. The crew creating this stuff has done an amazing job packing things into a small space, distilling things down to just the core elements that you actually need to run the game, and then giving you those in spades. A wonderful supplement. If you like Mothership, this is a must-buy. If you like sci-fi, I'd say this is also a must-buy. Even if you're not doing a horror genre, the number of tools here for creating a space station for really any type of sci-fi role-playing game is practically indispensable. So that's my recommendation for A Pound of Flesh. It is absolutely a fantastic read. I'll put links in the description below as usual. This is available in PDF and in print form. I should also point out that Tuesday Night Games is currently running a Kickstarter for another supplement for Mothership. This one, I believe, is going to be a sci-fi mega dungeon. I have not read it, so I don't know much about it, but given what I've seen from Mothership in the past, it's definitely at least worth checking out. I'll put links to that as well in case you want to see what's going on with that. So that's my review of A Pound of Flesh. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next time.